Hi there, if you want to learn how to create sound effects, then you are in the right place. In this video, we'll be having a look at Spintracer by Tonsturm Audio. Now, just a heads up, Tonsturm did reach out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in having a look at Spintracer. So I did have the product for a week or two ahead of time before the release, the version 1.2, but they are not seeing this video before you are. They have no say in what I'm going to say in the video. They don't even know what this video is going to be about or what I'm going to put in the video. So with that said, I'm going to try to make it as unbiased as possible. Obviously, it's going to be biased because I have had it and I did get a free version to try it out. So with that said, let's get into the video and check out Spintracer. All right, so here we are inside of Reaper, and the first thing we're going to want to do here is to load Spintracer. So I'm just going to do that right here. I'm going to load the VST3 version. And there we go. And this is Spintracer. This is what it looks like. Now, before we dive into the interface here and everything everything it can do, the first thing we're going to want to do is set it up and have a template set up so that every time we load it, we don't have to set up all the inputs and routing every single time because that can get quite tedious and consuming. So let me show you how we're going to do that. So because Spintracer version 1.2 can now have 16 different inputs, I'm going to create 16 different tracks here. So I have one here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm going to grab all of these 16 tracks that I just created. I'm just going to put them here under the folder. So now I have a folder with 16 subtracks underneath it. Right, and then next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to View. I'm going to go to Routing Matrix here. I'm just going to pull that up. And here for the Routing Matrix, I want to turn off all of these for the child tracks. And what that just did right there is I just turned off the parent send channel. And what that does is it sends the audio to the master bus. So if we look at our mixer here, what I just did is instead of having all of these sub tracks being routed into the master bus here at the end, I turned that all off so that they are not going anywhere yet. So right now, if I put any audio on those tracks, you won't hear them. So that's what I want to do for now, because what we're going to do is we're going to route all of these tracks into Spintracer, and I want the audio to come out of Spintracer, not out of the individual tracks. So I hope that makes sense. So here's how we're going to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the first track here, and I'm going to route it into... actually, before I do that, I'm going to open up the inputs here inside of Spintracer. And I'm going to select inputs here 1 to 16. So that's going to assign them 1 to 16 here for each orb. And the orbs, by the way, are these blue dots. And those are the sound sources. So those blue dots that are moving, those are going to be individual sound sources. You can have up to 16. So right now I have 2, but like I said, up to 16 here. Anyways, for now, it doesn't matter. Just turn on the inputs to 1 to 16, and then we'll keep going here with the routing. So I'm going to grab this first track here. I'm going to drag it into here. And I want to route the first track to number 1. Track number 2 here, I want it to go to number 2, and so on. So I'm going to do that for all 16 here, and then we'll be back. All right, there you go. So all 16 of these tracks have been now routed into Spintracer. So now under the Orbs tab here, I'm just going to increase it to 16 just so we can see that we have 16 of those sound sources. And there you go. So now our template is kind of done. So what I'm going to do here is grab all of my tracks here. I'm going to right click here, and you can go to Save Tracks as Template inside of Reaper. And you can see here, I've already saved it here inside of Spintracer, 16 tracks routed. So I'm not going to save it again, but here's where you would name your file and then save it if you wanted to, so that in the future, if you ever want to load it again, you can just right click on this area here on the left side and go to Insert from Track Template. And here I have it, Spintracer 16. So if I load it, you can see here, I already have my preset already done. And I like to have a few other effects here, like OTT, a bit of saturation distortion from a KHS shaper, and then a limiter on there. So that's what I like to have. They're not even on, but I like to have them there so that they're ready to go if I ever want to turn them on. So there you go. So I'm going to leave that there like that. I'm going to turn off the OTT and the shaper, and I'm just going to leave on the limiter for now. Now let's put a few sounds on my tracks so that we can see kind of how Spintracer works and what it can do. All right, so I have my sounds on here, and I'm just going to grab my shortest sound, which is here, put my parameters on there, and then I'm going to do a loop, so that as I play, it's going to continuously loop and we can continuously use Spintracer. All right, so there you go. So now everything should be routed. So if I play something here, let's turn off all the spinning and movement and everything just so we can start from the beginning, and let's just hear to see if it works. And it does. Now, a quick way to see what your original audio sounds like. It's not completely accurate, but you can turn down the output, the wet dry. So that's the original signal, and then through Spintracer, sounds like this. All right, so let's go over Spintracer so we can kind of see how it works. It's quite a bit different. If you've used something like Doppler Pro, you'll kind of see a similar interface, but Spintracer works quite a bit differently than the other plugins from Tonsturm. So let's have a quick look at what it can do and what things are here. All right, so let's start at the top here. At the top, you have your menu bar. And a few things here. So the dimension here, this is for the size of your, what they call your canvas. So this dimension is the size of your canvas. So right now, I think they're in meters, if I'm not mistaken. So 3 meters by whatever, 5.6 meters. And what we can do, you can either make it smaller or you can make it really large like that, where it's like you have a really large, wide canvas that covers a lot of distance. All right, so normally I'll just set mine to whatever, 1 to start. So it's really small, and then we can play around with that. The slow up here, this is for when you have, like for example, if I put the red dot here, which is your Spintracer. So the red dot is your tracer, the blue dots here are the orb, and then the white here is the listener or the speakers, right? So that's where the sound is going to be heard. So if I put it here, and I click elsewhere, you'll see that this tracer follows wherever I click because it's set to mouse target. I can also just hold my mouse down and then it'll follow wherever I'm dragging, like that, right? If I change the speed here, change it down, and I click away, you'll see how slow it goes. I can increase the speed here. And the slow up, what it does is as it gets closer to my target here, it's going to slow down a lot. So let's say I go here. Like you can see here, it's slowly slowing down to wherever I clicked. That's what the slow up is. That's what it does. So if I have nothing, it's just going to go straight there. If I have really, really high, it's going to create this large radius. And then as it gets closer to the dot here, it slows down. All right, next here we have our target, which we already kind of quickly talked about. It's that I can click on the canvas here, and then the tracer and the orbs are going to follow around. So the orbs are always going to be around the tracer, and they're always going to follow the tracer. And then the mouse, wherever you click, the tracer is going to follow that. So that means that the orbs are going to follow the tracer, and the tracer is going to follow your mouse. Hope that makes sense. Right, and here you have your X, Y, and Z. So this is actually a 3D canvas, but only on a 2D plane. So it can be quite a bit confusing to get your mind around it at first. So right now you have your X and Y, but you can also have a Z, which is like your height. So you can't see it. So when I increase it, it's hard to tell, but basically this is, let's say this is the listener here. If I press Z, that means it's going up away from the listener. So the sound will reduce, right? So right now you don't hear anything because it's so high up above the listener, but if I bring it down, you should start to hear it. Right, so as you can hear, as I'm increasing and decreasing the Z, the sound kind of comes in and out because it's going from above the listener down to the listener, right? So a little confusing because you can't visually see it, but that is what's happening with the Z axis here. And then the zoom here, this is just to zoom into your canvas or zoom out. It doesn't affect the dimension. That's what the dimension is for. It's strictly just a visual thing. All right, so let's pause this here. Let's go over the tracer, all of the modules down here. So we already talked about what the tracer is, what the orbs is, how to move it around, and how the sound works. So let's go here. So here we have tracer. This is the speed, so how fast. So if I click elsewhere here, this is how fast it's going to follow it. So if I increase it really fast, it's just going to like zoom there really fast. Now, this is a little glitch or bug that I've noticed is that it's not supposed to do this where like it bounces back and forth. It's supposed to just go there. So I think this is a little bug they have to fix. But anyways, it's supposed to like basically follow you exactly like super fast to wherever you're clicking. Force here, I'm not too sure what force is. Okay, so force is for the intensity of the steering applied to the tracer as it follows the target. So I think that as I'm moving around, it's like how fast or how well is it going to follow where I'm clicking? If I'm not mistaken, I think that's what it's supposed to do. Not completely sure though. Yeah, so I think it's supposed to adjust how the tracer adjusts its course based on the target, so based on the mouse, right? So if I go here and I have a really low force or really high force, it should follow it really, really quickly. If I go down though, it should take a bit more time to turn around and change its direction. So I think that's what force is. All right, let's go to orbs here. Orbs we've already a bit talked about. Those are the blue little dots here. So if I scroll in here to zoom in, you can have from 2 up to 16 orbs, which are sound sources, right, which are from these tracks. You can change the radius of the orbs here. So right now, if the radius is 0, that means they're not moving. If I increase the radius here, like that, let's add a bit of spinning so that we can see what is happening here. So you have to press play in order for the spinning to happen because I'm set to DAW. And if we look here, so now you can see the orbs. Maybe it's easier to see with just 2. But now you can see they're following their radius. right? So each orb is following its own radius. Now I can offset each other's orbs like this. So you have a really wide sound like that with just 2. Right? I can increase the speed that the orbs are spinning in. That's from the motion tab here. You can also have the each orb's radius move around the tracer. Right, I can change the offset so I'm a bit closer to the listener here, to the speaker. Maybe increase the speed a bit. Right, the other thing here we can do, so let's go to this module here. So you have spread. So we've talked about the motion here, where you have the motion of the orbs that's spinning around the circles. You have the motion of the circles here, the spheres. So here you have the spread. This is the phase. So right now, for the phase at 0, that means they're both spinning in the same direction in their own like little orbit there. So if I increase it, that means they're in opposite ends, right? You change the phase. Angle here, this is to bring the actual orbits together or separate them. Right, and here is your height. This is where the orbs can now change in height. So again, you can't see, I think this is kind of something I want them to fix, or I wish they would fix here, is that you can't see what the height is doing. Same thing with the target here where you have your Z. I can't see where the height is, right? So I can't see the orbs moving up and down, or how much they're moving up and down relative to the listener. But anyways, that's what this is. And then spread is like changing the phase of the height, so that they're not both going up and down at the same rate or at the same time. They're offset of each other. So if I'm not mistaken, that's what spread is doing here. Anyways, height I don't really touch just because I can't really visually see what's happening, and I have a hard time kind of understanding what's going on there, but that's what it is. Okay, next here we have our Doppler effect. So this is just for your typical Doppler sound. So if I take this off, you have your sound. There's no pitch shifting. There's no EQing or anything like that. It doesn't sound like anything is whooshing by. If we turn it on, then you can start to hear that Doppler effect taking place. And that is really good for when you're doing pass-bys or flybys for ships or planes and stuff like that. Really good for that. Attenuation here, if I take this all the way down, you're going to hear the sound more constantly. So let's increase the dimension a little bit. So I think this is going to make a big difference. So now as the orbs are going further away from the listener, they're getting quieter. That's the attenuation here. If I turn this off, their volume is going to stay up high. Right next here, you have your damping. This is the amount of high frequency that is getting dampened as the orbs come close and further away. All right, so that's that. Here, gain is your typical stuff. You can increase the volume. You can also change your wet dry so you can hear what you have playing outside of Spintracer, and then you can hear what Spintracer is actually applying. You have a limiter here, which is good to always have on. Here, panning is cool. You can have really wide panning so that you have a really wide stereo sound. You can also change the stereo amplification. If we look here, it's the amount of stereo amplitude panning to apply. So how much amplitude is going to be applied to your stereo width. You can also change the stereo phase here. I don't normally touch these two here. Ear spacing I'll play around with depending on what kind of sound I'm creating, if it's a whoosh or a pass by. But yeah. And then here is a cool one, floor reflection. So what this does is it creates that cool sound of a ship when it passes by, and you have a lot of sound bouncing off of the floor or off the ground. It's just adding more sound reflections to the pass by. So if I take it off, all right, hopefully you can hear the difference that makes. If you want less dampening, it'll increase it even more. We can have a lot of dampening, which will basically make just this effect last only as the orbs are like closest to the listener. So normally I have this around set 50. Totally depends what you want though. And then this is the listener height, which I don't normally touch because I'm not even too sure what that does. that's it. These are the modules for Spintracer. This is basically how it works. So if we play around with it, just so you get an idea of different cool things you can do here. Let's increase some stuff here. Right, you'll see you can create a lot of cool shapes and a lot of cool sounds with this. Let's change the offset here. Right, so you can create a lot of cool shapes that creates really cool like whoosh bys and flybys and stuff. Another thing I didn't talk about here, but inside of the target here, you can actually choose random, which means that instead of like using your mouse to move around, you can choose a random area to have the target move around in. So if I want maybe to have a circle, completely inner, let's make it smaller like this. So now basically you have your target here, which is that little gray dot, and it's going to follow everything. So right now you can see the tracer is having a hard time following the dot, so maybe I can increase the force here. I think this is what it's really used for. Maybe, oh, maybe not. Let's increase the speed. And maybe the force. There you go. So now everything's kind of following this random dot. I'm not doing anything, just moving around randomly. All right, last thing I'm going to show here is inside of motion here, you can change the different kind of motions that it's going to have. So right now I'm on spin, so it's spinning around to hertz. And that's so this is, you're changing the hertz, the frequency that it's going to spin at. You can also change it to BPM. You can do regular, triplet, or dotted, so it's in line with your DAW. You can also set it to random, which is cool. So now they're kind of moving around randomly. And then there's two modes here. You can do pulse or swarm. So it's just moving around a little bit randomly. And let's just do this here, like that. Right, so now it's kind of moving around randomly like that. So I like to do like something like this so that they're kind of just randomly moving close to the target here. And then as I'm moving by here, I can create these cool like flybys or whoosh sounds. Right, and then you have the same kind of idea here for the menu here. You can have a spin for the orbits turning around, where it's turning around at a certain hertz, certain frequency. And then you can also change it to the BPM, so it's in line with your dot. Or you can do manual. And this, if you look here, I can just set it to have maybe certain orbs in a certain direction. So maybe I want, I mean, it's kind of, this is maybe a bad example, so you can't really see here. But maybe I want like, let's say I do have, let's say I only have two orbs here, so it's a bit easier to see. Maybe I want the orbs to go sideways like this, so they're left and right, or maybe I want them top and bottom, something like that, so I can change their direction here with that. Right, something like that. Right, so I can put them on one on top of the other, or I can do it left and right, depending on what I want here. Right, so you can just place them on the orbit at a specific spot if you wanted to do that with the manual mode. All right, so now that we've gone through Spintracer, have looked at it and see what it is and what it can do and how it works, what I'd like to do now is kind of show you some examples of different sounds that I've created using Spintracer, just to get some, so you can have some ideas of what you can do with it. So here we go. All right, so the idea for this first ambience here is that I wanted to have some sort of sci-fi sounds and have them kind of move in and out of each other so that you have this dynamic ambience that's always changing and always different. So the way I did that here is by using for the motion, I used the random swarm. So right now all of these orbs are moving in different positions and motions, and yeah, that's basically it. Like, obviously, I had to tweak a few things, like the floor reflections, the Doppler effect to make it sound okay, and then I really pan the stereo width quite wide, the ear spacing quite wide, just so you get more of a bigger width. But that's it. So I used a lot of different sci-fi ambiances that I already created, and I put them into there, and that's how I created that. So if you want to see how I created those sci-fi ambiances, I probably have a video, so I'll link it up above. But let's have a listen to just those ambiances on their own. Right, so that's what it sounds like without Spintracer. Now let's put it into Spintracer here. Right, it's just a lot more subtle, a lot, just a lot more dynamic. You have a lot more variations, not just all in your face, but it's also constantly moving, changing randomly. So that's really nice. All right, let's have a look at this second one here to see what I created. And this was just to practice and see if I could get some good whooshes out of them. And obviously, to no surprise, you can easily get some nice whooshes. Obviously, that's what Spintracer is really kind of made for, to get some good flybys or whooshes. So let's have a listen to what I created here. All right, so that's the sound. And here what I just did is I had NVK Create here opened up, and I had it just set to A. So basically any sound that has the A in it or in the name file, so basically any sound that I have in my library would come out here. And yeah, so it's just a bunch of just different random sounds, 16 random sounds that I kind of layered together here, and that's it. Now I'm using Spintracer now to play through, so I create a whoosh from these. And as you could hear as well, it's great for creating different kind of variations and different motions, because every time I play it, because again, I'm on random swarm here, the orbs are always going to be in different positions from the listener here. So the sound is always going to sound a little bit different, especially with the Doppler on, right? So nothing's ever going to be exactly the same, even though the sounds here are not moving. They're exactly the same, but you're always going to get some slight variation just because of that. So yeah. All right, let's have a look at this next one. This one is probably one of my favorite ones here. Let's have a listen, and then I'll kind of break down what it is and how I created it. All right, so as you can hear here, a lot of different like glitchy sounds, UI sounds, sci-fi sounds, things you could use for that. So what I did here is, again, I did the same thing as I did before with the whooshes sound. I created just a bunch of layers with NVK Create that were just all glitches. Once I had that, I just copied and pasted them over. So if I show you here, all right, so it's like this is what I did here. So I had all of the same glitches here from NV that I put in using NVK Create. Then I can just hit NVK Replace. So it's going to replace all these sounds with other glitch sounds that I have in my library, just like that. Right now what I can do here is I can select all of them, duplicate them. Let's say I do it 4 times here. Right now I'm just going to highlight my selection here. Now I'm going to have LKC Variator open, and then what I can do here is change the position and change the file if I want to. So if I mutate that, now they should all move to different locations within my selection here, and then also change files. Just like that, right? So now I have a lot of just random glitchy sounds and stuff like that. So it's always going to be different. And if I want to, I can keep on mutating this so it always changes up. But yeah, again, so if I go here and I play it, right, you can get a lot of cool sounds. Again, I can just go in here, mutate. It's going to change them all up, change the positions, everything else. There you go. Now I have new sounds I can play with. And there you go. And if you're looking at this and you're like, I don't even know how to create glitch sound effects, no worries. I have a video about that too. So I'll put it in the cards above if you want to check it out. All right, let's look at a different one here. And this is for creating some sort of like realistic ambient sound. So Spintracer is really good for creating these kind of realistic sounds, these realistic flybys. It takes a bit more work to get it right and to get it sound the way you might want it to sound, but you can definitely do it. So here, what I have is just a floor fan. So if I play it here, I'll turn off the, try what try? Right, so I have a floor fan. Nothing special, it's just pretty basic, but it does sound a little bit like an airplane. So what I did here is I added tremolo. I did bring down the mix quite a bit here, the depth, so you don't hear too much. And then I have a bit of OTT, shaper, distortion, and then just my limiter, which is what I had on every other channel. All right, and now with that, if I play it here, right, it's not perfect, but it sounds pretty cool, pretty close. And you also get that kind of phaser effect. So I use that with by having the same sound source. Right, I also have the floor reflection here. If I want to, I could also just remove, so I only have the one sound source here. Maybe increase the Doppler. Right, and you can still get a pretty nice, realistic flyby sound effect. Obviously, it's not perfect. I'm just using a fan, but for using a fan, that's pretty good, I think. Now, of course, with this, you can also do some pretty good spaceship flybys and sci-fi flybys using this. I've actually gotten really good results with that. I don't have one set up here, but yeah, just so you know, lining up different layers of sci-fi sounds and engine sounds and stuff like that, or just loops, you can really create some really nice spaceship flyby sounds. All right, next, let's look at another use case of Spintracer here, and that is by automating the certain parameters. So here you can see inside of Reaper, I'm automating the radius and offset. This is using Reaper's random parameter modulation here. Right, so I just assigned these to an LFO, and you can see everything's going to move randomly or on its own using those parameters. So here we go. Right, so as you can see, you can get a lot of cool sounds out of this, a lot of cool like variation based on which parameters you affect here. So here I had it set to manual. I changed it to manual. I had it to random before, but it wasn't, the sound was a bit more chaotic, which could work if that's what you're going for. But yeah, just changing the radius here and the offset, you can get these cool patterns going. And then here I just put in different sounds. You can see here, I think I have magic sounds or sweeps or something like that I put in. Yeah, I'm pretty sure these are all like different magic sounds that I dropped into here. Again, with LKC Variator, I just changed the position here and the content so that they change location, and then that's it. So with that, I can just randomize. So again, I can just grab this here, go here, mutate, then I got a whole new variation of sounds I can play with here and listen to. Right, and assuming I have like my global sampler working up here, I can just grab, right? The section that I might like here, drag it into my project, and now I have this new sound that I might want to use in my project. All right, so I hope you found that useful and valuable, and just checking out Spintracer and seeing if it is a plugin or something that you might need in your sound design, in your workflow, in creating whatever it is, whooshes, flybys, or any other kind of cool sound effects. So yeah, if you guys have any comments, questions, leave it down below, and I'll also have a link below to Spintracer if you're interested in checking it out. So with that said, thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.